Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the FSL Mobile Legends Bang Bang Tournament, and today we are featuring the Philippines edition, and I'm really excited for all the games they're going to take part today. We have two really exciting, or rather two games of best of threes that they're going to play today. If you kind of missed the bracket, don't worry, we'll be flashing that in between the matches. But without further ado, before we really go through all the games, I think the teams are already in the drafting stage, so let's just jump straight into it. So I kind of forgot to give a little bit of a self-introduction there myself. My name is Aries, and if you kind of missed out on the previous games that have already been played, you can always head on down to our Facebook page on FSL Mobile. That's for our Facebook, or you can always check it out more through FSL Esports. You can also check out our Instagram if you want to find out more about these tournaments that we hold. Remember, this is a one-off tournament. And we have amazing prize pool for these ladies that are playing here today. In 4th and 3rd place, they'll walk away with 1,000 diamonds, and then in 2nd place they'll walk away with 2,000 diamonds, and in 1st place 4,000 diamonds. And also want to give a big shout out to our big sponsors as well as official partners, Dreamcore, Super Solid, as Yahoo TV, so big shout out to them. Let's go through the draft, shall we? First game of the day, or of the night, depending on where you guys are watching from. We have SINAG Angels up against BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS, and SINAG Angels, they decide to ban out both the Bruno as well as the Chow. I think that's pretty decent. Don't really want to go up against these two really sneaky heroes. They're really back into the meta, which is kind of testament to how strong they were in the previous meta, and now more and more CCs are being being prioritized, so I wouldn't be surprised at them being banned out. And then for BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS, we do see the ban on the Selena and the Claw. I'm really surprised at the first pick through the S-Murder, but I guess it's fine to a certain degree. It could be a comfort pick, and Esmeralda is still one of the heroes that is very viable. We have seen her perform a lot better, and at this point in time, look at SINAG Angels. They don't really have something they can go against the Esmeralda. Yes, they have the Xbox, which is pretty decent in lane, or pretty tanky, and if you're going up against the Esmeralda, if they choose to put her in the off lane, I think that's fine, but it's not really a direct counter, nothing that the Xbox can really do to the Esmeralda, so I don't think that's too much of an issue. Meanwhile, we're gonna see a ban on the Uranus as well as the Kimi. I mean, for the side of BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS, they will be definitely looking to pick up an MM for themselves. I think either the carry works well. Yep, the carry works well. I was about to recommend the Granger, in which this is, I think SINAG Angels will go for the Granger. That being said, I think the Granger is going to have a bit of an issue against the Esmeralda if they're not able to keep the Esmeralda at bay for the side of SINAG Angels, because she's definitely going to be using that Falling Star move to try to land onto the Granger on the backline. So I think that's going to be one of the threats that SINAG Angels have to be really careful about. And if they're not too careful in terms of positioning, it could pose to be a bit of trouble. So yeah, Valor works really well. I'm kind of surprised that Valor kind of slipped through the cracks. Oh, okay, so they choose to not go for any MM. That's really old school. The dual mage build. It's kind of like a season 2, but that being said, I think the heroes wise, it does make it a little bit viable, because they have the Valor to kind of stop the Esmeralda. It kind of puts the carry at range. Not really much that they can reach. If you look at the heroes of BREN ESPORTS at this point in time, they do need to close down the gap. You're talking about the Esmeralda, you're talking about the Tamus, you're looking at the carry, even for carry, right? She's kind of close range if you think about it. She doesn't really have the range as compared to the other MMs. And she's not exactly the tankiest to actually take up those fireball shots coming out from the Valor. And BREN ESPORTS, they choose, I wouldn't say take a risk, but they do decide to go for the Grok as the very last pick. I think that's decent as well. But yeah, I guess in some sense, this is the draft they decide to go for. So we're gonna be seeing an Xbox Lunox, Valor, Karja, as well as Hylos for SINAG Angels, and then over to the side of BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS, we're gonna see a Grok, Kufra, Tamus, Esmeralda, and Carry. So remember, you are watching the FSL MLBB tournament. This is a one-off tournament. It has no link to the FSL circuit, which is currently on hold due to the whole COVID-19 situation. So we'll definitely try to get as much updates as possible to you guys, and if you want to find out more about the circuit and how we're gonna carry it out in the later part of the year, if the situation kind of permits or already improves in a way, then you gotta keep up to date. You gotta follow us on our social media, because that's where we usually post out the latest updates, to let you guys know what we have in plans, as well as our future installments and how our community is going to be run. So remember, we're going to be having 2 best of 3s today. The first game is SINAG Angels versus BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS, like you're seeing. And then the next game that we have lined up for you guys, I do believe it should be SGP FEMME up against DINESSE EMPRESS. So a little bit of aggression coming up from Kiana Rips. I guess in some way, I don't think these two should have too much of a problem against one another at the start of the game. It should be pretty okay, just to have rest a little bit. Meanwhile, bot lane, we do see the Kaja that's going to be playing that off lane role all by himself. It looks like a standard hyper carry build, with the Lunox down in the middle. You do have the Grok with alongside the Kufra, just going to be babysitting the carry. No evade though. I think that's kind of surprising, because if you look at VICTRESS lineup, they do have a lot of firepower early game. You got the Force of Nature with the Grok. You have Tyrant's Rage with the Kufra, and you also have a very early. I think carry is, if you're going hyper carry on carry, yeah, she's kind of an early game to a certain extent. You can get a bit of stacks with the light wheel mark. So I don't think it's too bad of a decision to actually go for invade, but they decide to play passive, which I can understand. The carry goes late game. It's not exactly a bad thing for VICTRESS, because if you look at Sigma, they don't really have late game potential in some sense. Yes, they have a lot of damage in the Valor, but that's pretty much about it. I don't really think that should be too much of an issue for them. So a little bit of farming action coming up from both sides. Pretty passive at this point of time. I don't think we should be seeing too much of an engagement soon, although it looks like Hylos might be running into someone. Doesn't look like they're gonna be taking part in the fight. And 2 minutes and 30 seconds in, you're gonna see a lot of these boots getting completed. Still far away from the first item, but you do see SINAG Angels now looking to go on to look at those KO shots, and they're gonna use Last Insanity as well. They're really committing to this fight, and they do get the first blood. Meanwhile, bottom lane, they will get a counter kill onto the Kaja, so both teams do get the kill on the off laner. However, we do see that on the side of VICTRESS, they did manage to pick up the high loss as well, so that's kind of committing 2 kills there. They want to start onto the Turtle, which I don't think is the best decision. Xbox is really low, doesn't really have his ultimate as well. It just came out, but she's definitely gonna have to wait a while before she's in a healthy state, and so probably a good stop coming out from BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS in some sense. They did manage to get the kill. They tagged the tower a little bit. I'm pretty surprised to see that they didn't really go for the first tier. I mean, they might have known that SINAG Angels, sorry. They might have wanted to go for a turtle. So good rotation from the bot lane to try to stop that from happening. I think this is where we might see the second gank come in. They really want to take down these Tamus, and this is going to be vital for them, especially when you're playing a hyper carry. But remember, SINAG Angels, they don't really have an MM. Meanwhile, middle lane, we kind of miss a Q there onto the Kaja, and they're going to invade the jungle as well. And So another victory for the VICTRESS. Meanwhile, they do take the bottom lane turret. Top lane Kiana Reaps trying to break down Midnight. And you know, Tamus against Xbox, that's kind of an easy situation for the Tamus. But it's key here that she doesn't really overextend her position. She's doing pretty decent now in lane, and I think she's kind of ahead in terms of farm as well. But you know, BREN, ESPORTS, VICTRESS, they want to step up the pressure, and they will start off by taking the turtle. I think this is going to be uncontested. No way the SINAG will be able to contest this, but they really do want to come in. And I think that might be a bad situation. Last Insanity coming in a little bit too late. Tamu's first one to go down, not be able to keep alive with the ultimate. And look at those chaos shots coming out from Whimsy. Not enough to bring down Esmeralda. And the Magic Ball should be able to slow down the Lunox. They get a near to a complete team wipe. And they do get the tier 1 in the middle lane. On top of it, BREN, ESPORTS, VICTRESS, they did manage to get the turtle. And now they will also get the blue buff in the jungle of SINAG Angels. Good engagement there from BREN, ESPORTS, VICTRESS. You know, it kind of power the pressure, and if in a way, if you look at it, SINAG Angels, if they don't have that early game advantage, which they should have because they don't have an MM, they have 2 majors. And they're really counting on this Valor and Lunox combo to actually provide the burst damage to break down the front line of BREN, ESPORTS, VICTRESS. But you know, at this point, they're not really having it. You can see Triss doing a good job at standing the front line, and Krufra, you know, muted. She's just constantly, you know, being a pain in the neck, doing this kind of subtle damage. But it does add up over time. And now BREN, ESPORTS, VICTRESS, they also get the red buff. Things definitely not looking too good. Kaja trying to run away, but no can do. Tamus gonna jump straight into it with the scythes. And things definitely looking a little bit green for SINAG Angels. But SINAG Angels definitely do have a way back into this. Like I said, you know, they have, you know, Valor, and you know, Lunox is definitely no push over towards the late game as well. So that is pretty big, like, for both of them. So as long as they keep the distance, I think it should be fine. But here we go, Wild Charge coming right in. Esmeralda jumping into the Falling Star Moon. They get the first kill onto the Valor, and not even the second skill of the Valor can keep them away. Lunox trying to bring down Carry. One more hit should do the trick. They trade both their lives. But that's a bulk of damage gone for SINAG Angels. And it is quite a good engagement. Meanwhile, they're already applying pressure in the jungle. They will once again take away the blue buff. And remember, these buffs are really vital to SINAG Angels. All the more so when, you know, they have 2 majors. And I would say to a certain extent that Valor does need the buff more than Lunox. Because Lunox is definitely not gonna, you know, benefit from the cooldown reduction. And now we're gonna see Kaja try to go up against, or rather survive against the Esmeralda. Like I said, you know, if you look at the Esmeralda, they don't really have, on SINAG Angels portion, they don't really have someone that can, you know, kind of stop the Esmeralda. And in some way, pick up the carry also reduces, or rather takes away one of the MMs that can kind of deal with Esmeralda in some sense. So that's actually really smart drafting from BREN, VICTRESS in hindsight. Now I'm going to put a little bit of pressure down in the bottom lane. SINAG Angels trying to push them back. Top lane, Tamus did manage to get the solo kill onto the Xbox. Lord's going to come up in 10 seconds. SINAG Angels already, you know, receiving a lot of pressure down in the top, or rather up in the top lane. Gonna see Lord come up right now. Looks like Carry's gonna start with it. Meanwhile, SINAG Angels, they have a little bit of trouble in top side. Siege Creep gonna pick up the tier 2. And we do have Mutant who's gonna clear up the bottom wave as well. So SINAG Angels have no vision over the Lord, and it's gonna get taken down by VICTRESS uncontested. Meanwhile, middle lane, Carry already making light work of Hylos, who's almost going down, and we do see SINAG Angels starting to face a little bit of difficulty, and oh, Tyrant's Rage goes in immediately with the revenge as well, and that's gonna be a little bit of an issue for them. Midnight on the backline tries to use Last Insanity to do decent damage onto the Grog, but that is not the key target that they want to go on. Muted forced to use the flicker there. She definitely would like to save it, but better alive than with a better alive than dead with the flicker on cooldown. And now Muted can't really do much with the Lord push, although they can try to put a little bit of pressure down to the middle lane. They're trying to keep both creeps alive, or rather both towers alive. And BREN Esports VICTRESS will definitely be very frustrated with that. They did manage to get the tier 2 in the middle lane, but they were definitely hoping for more there. And they might be able to get it. I mean, Cannon Reap's already starting work on the tier 3 in the top side. Not enough damage to bring it down, but decent damage. So they will take what they can get. VICTRESS definitely having a very comfortable lead. Look at that. 13k goal lead by the 11th minute mark, and now they can't even force their way into the bottom end. They don't really want to go in. They're not really committing to a fight here. Meanwhile, top side, Tamu's up against the Xbox. And that's that for now. 3 Necklace of Endurance. Not really, I would say, not really recommended because the effect doesn't really stack. But you know, at the same time, it is quite efficient for all of them to have in a 1v1. That being said, if you look at the comp coming up from VICTRESS, they're not going to leave the carry alone. They're not going to leave the Esmeralda alone. So I don't really recommend 3 of them. I think Kaja picking up the Necklace of Endurance would be the best. Either that or the Valor, because they do have quite a bit of range. And at the same time, they might be able to get something out of it. They do pick up the high loss, and that is a huge kill for them, because now, without the front line, BREN Esports VICTRESS can actually force their way in if they want to. They're gonna start off by jumping right onto the backline. They get a 3-man stun, and that is fantastic coming up from Muted. She doesn't even go down. She still has immortality. And I fear that this might be GG. Xbox comes in Last Insanity, and it's really just a desperate attempt to try to stop BREN Esports VICTRESS, but I don't think they can do much. Carry's gonna start piling onto the base. They do have a little bit of a hope there. Creep still not coming up. High loss, first one to respawn. Glorious Pathway being laid down, but it's all too little too late. And this is it. BREN Esports VICTRESS will walk away with the first game in hand over SINAG Angels. And I gotta say, this was a very straightforward game, you know, and to a certain extent, you can't really blame SINAG Angels. They were kind of falling behind after the mid game, and they shouldn't be, right? If you look at the draft that they have a Valor, they also have you know, this Lunox, and they should be making use of the Valor a lot more, right? The Searing Torrents to keep the Asmada out of range, and to keep the Tamus out of range every single time they want to go in. I think on the most part, BREN Esports VICTRESS did a really good job of managing the early game. If you look at the farm at this point, I know you've got Carry who did manage to pick up her max build despite the game only being 12 or rather 13 minutes long. And you know, she was already max build long ago. She was already working towards a potion. So really well played coming up from BREN Esports VICTRESS. And I think Tamus also did a fantastic job at, you know, keeping the Xbox in check at top side. And for the most part, I think Kaja was the only one that did some sort of a work on his lane by picking up their first tier turret. But BREN Esports VICTRESS, they were more than happy to give you a first tier. They were just taking objectives across the map. They got the turtle as well. They invaded the bars really aggressively, and SINAG Angels were just not able to keep up the rotation. But with that being said, congratulations to BREN Esports VICTRESS. And I think this is a good time to take a little bit of a short break. When we are back, don't go anywhere, because we still have the second game to go on, and if the game really permits, then we will go to game 3. That's if SINAG Angels come back in game 2. So hopefully they will draft a little bit better. I think the two mage draft does work to a certain extent, but they must, and I emphasize on the must, they must control BREN Esports VICTRESS in terms of early game rotation, and they obviously should be doing a lot better in the opening stages of the game as well. So I think we'll go for a short break, but when we are back, game 2 between SINAG Angels as well as BREN VICTRESS. I'll see you after this.
The warm feel of my passion burning. Woohoo! You feel that? Hey, very nice kick. I'm on top of the world.
Killing spree. Mega kill.
You feel that? Ha!
You have slain an enemy. Launch attack. Legendary.
Ha!
Double kill.
Ha!
Legendary.
I'm on top of the world. Hey,
First blood.
Download for free Mobile Legends Bang Bang.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are back after that short little break, and we are about to jump straight into game 2. And at this point, we have BREN Esports VICTRESS currently on the brink of moving into the next, I would say the next bracket. In some sense, next stage, they are... Remember, this is a best of 3, so if they do manage to win the next game against SINAG Angels, they will make it into the next bracket. Meanwhile, SINAG Angels fighting for survival in game 2 itself. They're going to be swapping sides, and we're going to see a ban on the Selena as well as the Claude. Claude is pretty straightforward. You do get that teleportation, and then as well as the Blazing Duet, which is super pesky. Can kind of run rampant if it's not kept in check in the opening stages of the game. So no surprises to see that he's been banned out. We do see a ban on the Bruno as well as the Chow, which I wouldn't say that I'm too surprised as well to some extent. Yeah, but I mean, that being said, we do see the Tamus getting picked up once again. The Cauldron Inferno a little bit too much for the Xbox in the previous lineup. And I gotta say, like, for the most part, it's been pretty one-sided affair, especially in game 1. And I think it's something that is gonna do with the draft. Like, if you look at the draft in the previous game, BREN Esports VICTRESS, they definitely were targeting the ban on the Kimi, and I'm not sure to what degree that affected SINAG Angels draft, but they immediately switched into 2 mid. So that might be something that SINAG Angels might be limited to by only deciding to go for the Kimi, but they managed to get her, so I think that's good. But BREN Esports VICTRESS now, they will pick up the Kaja for themselves. And the first pick on the Tamos is pretty surprising. I would have expected like the first pick to be either the carry or the Kaja. I think that would have made more sense. But like I said, it could be a comfort pick. It could be something that they don't want to give over to SINAG Angels, or they don't want to get banned out. We saw in the previous game, Kaja getting picked up by SINAG Angels. And I wasn't the most happy about the way they wanted to run the lanes. They put the Kaja down to the bot lane, and that didn't really maximize the impact that SINAG Angels could have done with the Kaja, because when Kaja hits that level 4, he's gonna get the Divine Judgment. He's gonna be able to help the team gank. He's gonna be able to help to get the team get kills. And looking at the draft that SINAG Angels had previously, which was the 2 mage, that's what they should have been doing. Instead, they didn't really capitalize on it because they were too they're falling behind from the opening stages, and their draft doesn't really allow them to pull into the late game. You don't have an MM that can carry into the late game. They don't have a carry. They don't have a Gregor, someone that can put up consistent DPS. So they pretty much do have the Valor in the previous game, and that was about it. But that being said, looks like SINAG Angels, they pick up the Ass Murder for themselves as well. Kind of feels like a reverse in terms of the draft. They go for the Jawhead, which is pretty good. I think the Unstoppable Force will definitely help them in ganking the carry. And then, with the Ejector, they should be able to catch her out of position. But that's only if, BREN Esports VICTRESS are not babysitting this carry, where, this is where they pick up the Kaja, and they also picked up the Baxia. So that is a tanky lineup to break through. It's very obvious they're going for the 151. They pick up the Xbox. They gotta put the Tamus in either the top or bottom. Doesn't really matter. I think both heroes will do well in their respective lanes. Both heroes are very tanky. If you look at the lineup of BREN Esports VICTRESS, they pick up the Baxia as well to soak up even more damage alongside the other two, offlaners. And Tamus as well as Xbox are not exactly the easiest heroes to take down, even though they are offlaners and fighters per se, because they are going to be definitely doing a lot better as compared to, I think even if it is up against like another fighter like Badang. Badang is quite squishy when you compare all the fighters. Yes, he has the most amount of damage output or burst with the Fist Crack, but in terms of like survivability, I think the Xbox and the Tamus will definitely do a better job at fulfilling that role. And we're gonna see the Farstar as the last pick from SINAG Angels, so they once again, it looks like they're going for this very mage-focused lineup where they have Kimi as some sort of MM, but we know Kimi, at the end of the day, she's gonna run that full mage build. She can go for the Blade of Despair, although, you know, most players have started to shift away from the BOD because it just takes so long to complete. And, you know, Kimi going for mage build, you go into the Glowing Wand, and you go for the Ice Cream Wand as well, and you can go for the Genius if they want to. That's something that's really cheap and early game. You can also kind of abuse the fact that she's the MF the longest range from level 1. So yeah, I think this is where SINAG Angels will look a lot more comfortable, something that's within the zone. You know, they obviously like to play with that magical damage. They pick up the Esmeralda as well. The only downside to this draft, I would say, for SINAG Angels is that BREN Esports VICTRESS, it's very easy to build against lineup, to be honest, right? You go for magical defense, and you pretty much can block out most of the damage output from SINAG Angels. And you know, you go for immortality, you go for the Athena shield, and you pretty much have that lockdown in terms of the defensive portion. And the only one that really has physical damage is the Jawhead as well as the Grok.
Welcome to Mobile Legends. 5 seconds till the enemy reaches the battlefield. Smash them. All troops deployed.
So remember, this is game 2 between BREN Esports VICTRESS and SINAG Angels. SINAG Angels looking to come back in game 2 to try to keep themselves in the competition. I'm very surprised to see that it's still a 4-mass build, so they're definitely still trying to get this hyper carry on the carry. And Grok's just gonna chase that red buff away. Well done by Aizu, and they have the Kimi as well, which is really gonna be a pain in the neck for the side of BREN Esports VICTRESS. An early engagement between these two teams, but BREN Esports VICTRESS, they will walk away with the red buff, so no complaints about that. Meanwhile, we do see the rest of SINAG Angels gonna be backing off,
Request backup.
going back to their farming patterns. Kiana Rip's gonna be in the bot lane, Xbox at the top, and Grok dropping really low. Wanted to kind of stop that blue buff take from BREN Esports VICTRESS, but gonna fall there. A little bit of a risky engagement, I would say. Not really needed. Like, they did well to stop the red buff, or rather not stop but delay the red buff take from BREN Esports VICTRESS. I think that should have done it. They should have just backed off. But now Xbox stacking up the flames. But both sides not really wanting to commit to a fight there. Meanwhile, Jawhead gonna be harassing Kiana Rips. Didn't really manage to steal away the gold buff, so I don't think that's gonna be too much of an issue for the Tamus. Oh, Tamus there gonna be ejected by the Jawhead. Caught out of position as well. Kind of overextended in lane. Should have been a little bit more careful with positioning, but you know, BREN Esports VICTRESS, although they lose the Tamus, they will walk away with the tier 1 onto the top side. And in terms of rotations wise, you know, BREN Esports VICTRESS definitely ahead, because now they can kind of rotate down to mid, clear out the waves, push out the wave in fact, and then start to take that turtle. And what they have just done by putting the burst as well, I'm pretty sure they used the Divine Judgment. Yeah, it's in cooldown. A good catch up onto Lady Rainicon. Meanwhile, bottom lane, they're playing a lot more aggressive as well. The Wild Charge coming in, but not in time to save the Jawhead. And Triss caught in a bad position. Meanwhile, Muted rotating around as well just to keep the Baxia alive. Shouldn't be an issue. And in fact, BREN Esports VICTRESS, while they managed to get the a kill down the bot lane, they are already starting on to the turtle. Esmeralda a little bit late, nothing that Whimsy could have done there. I think BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS, they just have a very good understanding of how their lineup is going to succeed, especially in the opening stages, right? You look at the way that SINAG Angels should be playing. They should be playing a lot more aggressive by utilizing the Kimi, but they haven't been able to break down this rotation that BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS are putting forward. You know, you do see a lot of aggression from their lineup. They're trying to go to the top. They're taking the tier 1s, they're taking turtle. You know, even though they lose a kill down the bot lane, they're achieving something else, you know, somewhere else on the map. And now BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS, they're gonna run into 4 men of SINAG Angels. And Baxter is gonna be jumping on someone right now. Wants to go to Kimi, but a little bit too deep, and they will settle for the Grok right there, but the feather airstrike, not enough damage to even bring down the Baxia. They also take out the Kimi, and BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS just putting so much pressure on this bottom lane. Meanwhile, Whipsy not being able to push in as Gasa is gonna hold them at the tier 1. I don't think there's anything that SINAG Actress or rather SINAG Angels can do about their bottom lane. BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS, they don't really see a threat coming up from the bottom side. They're just gonna settle for this tier 2, and Azu, I gotta say, caught in a bad position. Divine Judgment not even needed. One more hit for the carry should do the trick, and they get the kill onto the Grok. Meanwhile, top side, Xbox brought really low, but she's definitely doing a job. Guys are just holding Whimsy at the tier 1. In fact, this Esmeralda hasn't been able to crack the turret. And BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS slowly clawing away at the net worth. Look at that, 6k gold hit within 5 minutes. Feather X strike pulled out a little bit too early in my opinion, but they get the Divine Judgment. They try to force a Q onto Aizu, who did a good job at using Wall Charge at the very last moment. But BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS already moving on to the next objective, which is gonna be the turtle. SINAG Actress, SINAG Angels, I don't know why I keep saying Actress. Oh, Feather Airstrike coming out from Lady Renicon, but stopped just prematurely. Last Insanity coming out from Garside, not being able to pick off anyone there, but Triss already on the hunt for the Esmeralda. Should be able to land the skill, they get the kill, and they also walk away with the turtle previously, which is pretty good. But SINAG Actress definitely looking to try to bounce back from this one. They find themselves in a very familiar spot. This feels like deja vu from game 1, where you know, you're just getting torn apart by this rotation coming from BREN ESPORTS. Angels not able to hold off BREN ESPORTS as they knock down this tier 1 in the middle lane. Looking at itemizations for now, you do see carry already starting to work towards the Demon Hunter Sword. In comparison, Kimi's not even close to that BOD that I talked about. I was surprised to see them go for this physical damage Kimi, because I really wanted them to build into the magic damage. This way, you know, Kimi does scale a lot better with magical build. You do get, you know, to get your tier 1 or your tier 3 items a lot quicker, because you know magical items are just so much cheaper, and the glowing ones so much more inexpensive compared to the BOD. But now the top lane, they're gonna burn the Divine Judgment, but no issues there in picking out the Esmeralda really easy. You know, carries damage just too much to deal with at this point in time, and I think a couple more 100 gold and they should be able to get that Blade, or not Blade of Despair, but that Demon Hunter Sword. And no, she decides to go for the Golden Stuff first, which is fine. You know, it's still an absolute fantastic build. Endless battle on both of the carry as well as the Tamus. I think she's definitely going to build into the Lightning Belt pretty soon. But for now, top lane, a little bit of action in the top jungle. Gasai dropping really low, didn't manage to use Last Insanity in time. But Falling Stammer being used by Whimsy. They try to get the gang onto the carry, but really well babysitted by the Baxia. They have no open, or rather no opening at all to go on to BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS. I think that SINAG Angels still have a way into this, because they do have the Esmeralda, but you know, if you look at the draft this time around, Esmeralda doesn't play as well as in the first game, where you know she's going up against a tough opponent and the carry this time. And now we do see the Feather Airstrike coming up from Lady. Rainicorn tries to follow up with the Wild Charge from the Grog, but doesn't really able to do much. In fact, they really find two members going down. Look at the carry, the DPS being pulled out by Colin. And she's pretty unstoppable at this point. I have Fleeting Time coming up from Muted, which is gonna help them in getting that Divine Judgment on cooldown as quickly as possible. Feather Airstrike gonna keep them at bay for a little bit, just to clear out the waves before they touch the tier 3s. But at this point, BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS, they know what they're waiting for, and it's gonna be the Lord that's coming up in about 30 seconds. That's their next go-to. They don't even need Divine Judgment at this point. Look at that, Midnight nearly went down there. Now BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS want to wrap this game up. I think they might be able to, if they get one more pick off over here before the Lord comes up. I think it might be GG, because you know you're gonna lead into that two waves of super minions. You know, Lord's gonna push down to top side. Lightning Belt completed for Colin. This is where the carry becomes really scary. Not like she's not scary at this point in time. She's pretty much pretty unstoppable, I would say, on the side of BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS. Nothing on the end of SINAG Angels that can really touch her. I mean, if you look at the potential that they have, Divine Judgment as well, just to keep Midnight from running. He's got no way out, and without the Jawhead, I was about to say Jawhead is really the only one that can kind of catch Colin out with the unstoppable force, and then you try to eject the carry onto the back line. Hopefully they can burst her down. This is pretty much the only way which I see that they can win a team fight, because if you look at the hyper carry lineup, generally, you know, the MM will carry most of the farm. She's gonna have the most damage, and if you do take on an MN, it does make it a lot easier to break in team fights. But at this point, BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS just catching anyone who's stepping outside the base, and I think Aizu's gonna go down to Colin again. Esmeralda is pretty much the only person that can jump now. That they do have Midnight coming up. They are in the 4v5. The Lord's gonna pummel down on the top side. Tri's gonna jump onto the back line first. She might go down, but they don't care. They're just hammering away. Look at how quickly the Wims is going down. And I'm feared that this is GG. The Lord is still at half HP, but the base already cracked right wide open. And BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS, they get their 2-0 in less than an hour. And this is pretty much it for SINAG Angels. Unfortunately, they were just not enough for BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS. So look at game 2, you know, it's a lot, I would say it's a lot quicker, right? It's around the same time, both below 13 minutes. But in game 2, I don't know, I feel like if they did manage to complete the BOD on the Kimi, which I think is, you know, give props to SINAG Angels. They were struggling for farm already, and to be able to get this amount of farm on their lineup, I think it's pretty good. But you know, it just wasn't enough. They still need so much to build against the carry, and even if they do take on the carry, you know, Tamus at this point in time, she's got Queen's Wings. Sorry about that, and she's really got the Endless Battle done, and she's probably gonna build into, I would say, Brute Force armor looks pretty good on the Tamus, just to go and catch up, you know, onto the Kimi. You can catch up onto the far side if she wants to, but you know, you need like you need so much more against this Tamus, right? You still need like a Necklace of Durance against his Tamus healing, Current Inferno. You need like so much more armor piercing to even break down this Baxia. We haven't really talked about Baxia as well, and in fact, the entirety of the game, the only kill that they got was on the Tamus in the bot lane, while you know, BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS were getting not only the top tier tower, or the tier 1 tower in the top lane, but also the turtle. So I think on both situations, SINAG Angels had a lot of difficulty trying to break down this lineup coming up from BREN eSports VICTRESS, and for the most part, BREN eSports VICTRESS, they were really aware of their winning conditions. How they were able to break SINAG Angels down, and at the end of the day, they knew what they had to do was just try to keep the carry alive for the early part, and she would definitely carry to the late game, and they picked up two very hardy fighters for the side lanes, which is both the Towns as well as the Xbox. And like I said, in game one, I think SINAG Angels would have done a lot better if they had put the Kaja as a roaming support as compared to an off lane, because Kaja doesn't really do much damage to the towers. He's not really efficient in the 1v1, as compared to like an Xbox or even a Tamus. And at the end of the day, you want him to be roaming because Divine Judgment really helps you in the gank. You pretty much have a skill that can immobilize someone. Even in 5v5 fight, you take someone out, it's instantly a 4v5. And I think this is a really good situation, or a really good example of how to use supports really well, because I think Kaja is just really, as much as he is a really meta hero, I still think there's a lot of teams that do overlook Kaja because of how teams are so used to not having a support in teams. But when you go into the hyper carry meta, which has been a meta for the past 2 seasons, you gotta adapt and you gotta pick up these valuable ones. This is the reason why you see Valor getting banned out. You see heroes like Selena getting banned out. Heroes like Diggy getting banned out, which BREN eSports VICTRESS also took out in the draft. So yeah, that being said, congratulations to BREN eSports VICTRESS, and commemorations to SINAG Angels. They did their best, but this is the end of the journey for them. While for BREN eSports VICTRESS, we will see them in the next bracket, so hopefully they can continue this rampage that they are on. And we'll go for a break, but don't go anywhere because we still have one more game to be on stream, which is, I believe, gonna be I'm looking for the game, and we're gonna flash the bracket up pretty much after this. And yep, it's gonna be SGP FEMME up against DINESSE EMPRESS. So I want to see how these two teams play. I've never heard these two teams. Hopefully they can put on a good show for me as well as the viewers at home, and I hope you've enjoyed the first game so far. We'll go for a break, but when we are back, more Mobile Legends Bang Bang games.
Blessed ancestors! I was saved by a Valkyrie! I guess this day ain't so bad after all!
We can't let Aurora Hart lose control.
Aye, aye, ma'am! At last, Aurora Hart is mine! Captain Bane, reign supreme!
Bane must be stopped. Ah! For our homeland, our ancestors, and the living, we will not stop fighting the evil. I am the daughter of Northern Vale, and I swear to protect it till my last breath.
Blast him, Harden! I'm gonna slaughter that pumpkin Franco myself! Time to look alive, lads! Let's send Bane and his freaks back to the bottom of the sea! I can't bloody
My suffering brothers and sisters, you will be free.
Blimey, that's a road of heart! Boys, we've got a big booty to take!
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the FSL MLBB tournament. Once again, a big shout out to our official partners. We'd like to give a shout out to Dreamcore, Super Solid, as well as Yahoo TV, and be it where you guys are watching, be it on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. A really big welcome. My name is Aries, and we still have one more game to go. For today, we'll only be streaming 2 games, so if you kind of missed out on the previous game, which was absolutely fantastic, I'm not gonna spoil the results for those who actually missed out on that game, because I don't really want to review who won. But the game was definitely a really exciting one. I think it was pretty interesting per se. We kind of saw 2 teams that picked up a similar draft to some extent. You know, both teams using Murder for both BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS, as well as I do believe it was SINAG Angel. So that game is pretty much already over. So I'm just going to show the brackets, but this is the bracket that hasn't reviewed the results yet. So the game hasn't been over. We're going to be playing one more game. So you can see in your brackets here, these are the teams that are participating in this tournament, and this is the Philippines edition of the FSL MLBB tournament. Remember, this has nothing to do with the circuit. It's a complete different tournament. It's a one-off event. And if you're wondering what has happened to FSL circuit, obviously you gotta put it on hold because of the whole COVID-19 situation. But you know, we always try to get that news up to you guys. But this match between SGP FEMME and FINESSE EMPRESS, well, we do see a lot of support for both teams, and looks like the draft has already begun. So let's just jump straight into the draft. Alright, so this is the draft that we're going to be seeing at this point of time. SGP FEMME going to be playing on the blue side, while FINESSE EMPRESS taking the red. And SGP FEMME going to be immediately removing the Kaja. We saw how, you know, strong BREN ESPORTS VICTRESS utilize it. They were fantastic in utilizing it, I think, in contrast to, in some sense, how the opponents put Kaja on the off lane, or rather solo in the bottom lane, which I think would have worked if they were snowballing, but they were behind. They needed the gang for the Kaja. They needed Divine Judgment to be there when they wanted to pick up a pick off. So it's a lot easier to utilize a Kaja when you're in rotation, but they're gonna remove it, which is fine. You know, they don't really want to deal with it. They're also gonna remove the Valor, 2 heroes, support heroes, which are really strong in their own rights. Complete different set of kits, and you know, Valor is just one of those heroes which is super annoying to deal with, especially in the early game, because I don't think there is a hero out there that can really deal with his damage output from both the burst fireball, as well as, you know, if he does decide to, or rather he decides to pick up a flame shot, it's pretty much a one hit, or rather a first blood. So you know, I can see why they choose to remove it from the draft. They will also pick up the Bruno for themselves, which I think is really good as an MM at this point. You know, the hyper carry meta does allow Bruno to shine. And FINESSE EMPRESS is going to reply that with a Tamus, as well as a Jawhead pickup. They're going to ban out the Hylos and the Uranus, 2 tanky heroes, and I can kind of see where FINESSE EMPRESS is going with this. They want to ban out heroes that are really tanky, and they want to pick up all the tanky heroes for themselves, hence why they pick up the Tamus, they pick up the Jawhead as well. But SGP FEMME not gonna let that sit around. They're gonna pick up the Baxia, which I do like. I think Baxia coming into this competition has been picked up quite a bit. I don't think they'll lock in the Mia. I think Mia will be looked over. I think Carry's looking to be really good. I think, you know, heroes like Carry, heroes like even Granger, both MMs do really well against, you know, SGP FEMME's lineup at this point. And, you know, given that SGP FEMME has decided to pick up a Buxa, Carry makes the most sense. You know, Carry can break down the Buxa really quickly. And Carry doesn't really need much farm to go into the late game. You can kind of pick up an Endless Battle into Demon Hunter Sword or a Golden Staff. Either one works fine. You know, she's really viable in this hyper carry meta where she's definitely going to get a lot of fun. And I think, yeah, I gotta say, you know, Finesse Empress draft are looking pretty scary at this point. They ban out the ban out the Asmana, which is understandable. Someone that can jump into the back line, someone that can kind of catch out the carry. And I think this is where they're gonna pick up another fight. I think Xbox looks pretty good for Finesse Empress. Either the Xbox or, I mean, if they're gonna run the Jawhead and the Tamus, then they don't really need. I think they'll pick up one more tank for themselves. And, you know, actually Krufa wouldn't be a good choice, but they ban away both the Valor as well as Krufa. And Atlas is the next best choice. You gotta admit that. With Valor out of the way, there's no one that can really stop this Atlas and his fatal links. So I do see the Atlas getting picked up, and then they'll most likely go for Selena. I think Selena would be a really good pick for Finesse Empress if they want to choose her. Same goes for SGP FEMME. They do need one more fighter, and I don't know. I think either the Badang or Xbox is pretty good. Like, both have enough utilities in the say. You know, Badang has enough damage, whereas you know, they pick up the Xbox. It's really counting on the survivability. I think Sylvana is fine, but she's gonna be a lot squishier as compared to Atamus, and I don't really recommend that. And they decide to go for the Xbox, which is what I kind of recommended, and they do pick up the Lilia as well, so that's gonna help in that early game part of SGP FEMME's like draft. Finesse Empress, they're gonna have one more pick. Ooh, I don't know. I feel like this is gonna be a risky pick if they do decide to go for the Popo and Koopa, but hey, you do you. And you know, Finesse Empress, they feel comfortable with this double MM lineup. We've seen this happen in other leagues as well as tournaments before. You know, the double MM, especially in MPL, where Orange Esports utilized that double MM lineup against EVOS Esports. So I think it's fine. It's definitely viable. But you know, the team, they have to be able to somehow make this work, especially in opening stages where I think SGP FEMME are looking a lot more dangerous because of the